Hey guys, second album review of Monday, Martin Luther King Day. This is the Goo Goo Dolls, Dizzy Up the Girl. Had never listened to the whole album before, was familiar with a number of the songs on this album, though could not have told you that they were on this particular album. All in all, this is a relatively enjoyable album for me. I think it gets a 3, a little above a 3, somewhere in that range. And the reason this doesn't get a higher score is simply consistency. This album has some amazing hits, some songs that are what I think of core Goo Goo Dolls songs and core Goo Goo Dolls sound. Absolutely nails. But there are some definite misses on this album, which I'll get to in a little bit, that keep this from being a higher scored album. That said, the highs are really high and the lows are pretty low for me. So the favorite hit for me, or the favorite track for me prior to this, was probably Broadway. Just always loved the sound. Afterwards, after listening to it with more critical ear, definitely enjoyed Iris this time around, which probably isn't a surprise to anybody. That was, I believe, their biggest commercial hit. So I'm just coming around to what everybody else already thinks and already realized that that's probably the best song on the album. In terms of the worst song, there are a couple that stand out for me. Bulletproof and Am I Gone? Those were both terrible in my mind. I was walking back from the gym while I was listening to this, and I was constantly looking at my phone saying, are we still listening to this? Like, is this song still going on right now? It just didn't hit at all. And that blends into the other, what are the other topics of music, production, and range. So what I thought was really interesting with this was seeing what I refer to as kind of that core Goo Goo Dolls sound, the Iris, Broadway, Slide, etc., all the stuff that comes to mind when you think of the Goo Goo Dolls, and then contrasting it with some of the harder, more alt rock sounds in Am I Gone and Bulletproof, and I think there's one or two others there. So it was interesting to kind of see that different range, because I didn't realize that the Goo Goo Dolls had that range. And actually, after doing a little bit more research, it turns out they had more of that sound earlier on in their career. This was their 6th album, so they'd been around for a while. Though what was interesting was their bigger hits, even on their earlier albums, were more of that core sound, as I think of it. And what they continued to transition and grow into was more of that, I'll call it a little bit softer sound, perhaps a little bit more mainstream sound. So obviously I'm not the only one who thought that, and clearly they had a good manager who kind of pushed them in that direction as well too. So that was really interesting to see that. In terms of the range that they exhibited, they did exhibit some range again within the genre, I would say, not straying too far from it, but I'll give them a little bit of credit there. Music quality and production, like everything for this album, when it hits, it hits. The top songs here, you want to get into them, you feel yourself singing along, and I love that. The other ones I just struggled with, and that to me kind of moderates the score on how well I'm able to get into it, because I was so into it on some. The others I really pulled back, and again, that impacts the overall album experience. I struggled staying in it and getting that complete experience because we vacillated between the hits and misses here, and that really took away from me. Overall, though, taking that aside, it was okay from that experience. There was nothing impressive they were really doing to really try and tie it together, at least in my mind. And then in terms of the lyrics, nothing crazy, pretty average here. And finally, the timelessness of this album. It's the theme for this entire album. Some of these hits, yes, they're going to be timeless, and you'll come back to them 20 years from now and say, yeah, this is awesome, still love it. And some of the other stuff on here, you'd say, I don't really get it, and it's not going to hold up well, because it hasn't held up well already. So that's really the theme for the album. Some highs, some lows, and at the end of the day, we come out with a, hey, net, I enjoyed parts of this, I didn't enjoy the other parts of it. So come back for more.